chaotic messaging out of the Trump administration. We have a nation at war now in its third week. People are concerned about their economic well-being. Gasoline prices continue to rise by the day. But we have a president whose priorities seem to be pushing through a restrictive voting bill before this year's election, posting last week that he will not sign any other bills into law until the Save America Act is passed. This is a bill that critics claim will disenfranchise millions of eligible Americans from registering to vote. And when this administration does talk about the war, or little excursion, as Trump likes to call it, what is presented is beneath the dignity of any White House, like portraying the grave acts of the military as nothing more than a kid's video game. And in another stunning example, President Trump is fundraising off the war. Trump's Political Action Committee sent out a fundraising email featuring a photo from last Saturday's dignified transfer honoring 6 fallen U.S. service members, promising donors, quote, private national security briefings by the president himself. The White House and Pentagon did not respond to MS Now on what those briefings would entail. Joining us now, David Drucker, senior writer at The Dispatch and MS Now contributor, and Adam Serwer, staff writer at The Atlantic. Adam, David, welcome back to the weekend. Adam, since you're not at the table, I'm going to start with you and just ask you, considering the president's penchant for sharing classified information in public settings, and I'm thinking of that time when he shared news of launching missile strikes on Syria while publicly dining with the Chinese president on his patio at Mar-a-Lago, should we give President Trump the benefit of the doubt that he won't actually share private national security, classified national security information with those donors as he's promised?
Well, I think it's worse than that. It's clear that he uses national security information the way you or I might use an anecdote about meeting a famous person at a party. He just doesn't consider it important, and that's an extension of a larger problem, which is that he sees the U.S. government as his property. And it's not his property. It's the public's property. It doesn't belong to him. The presidency does not belong to him. The federal government is not an extension of the Trump Corporation. It is something he is administering, not something he owns. And treating, all the assets of the federal government as though they were assets of the Trump Organization is impeachable behavior. It's the kind of thing that's not supposed to happen. But unfortunately, there have been no consequences for all of Trump's actions thus far, which is why he feels like he can get away with brazen behavior like trying to fundraising off the corpses of dead American service members.
David, there is the meme videos that the administration has put out, basically pretending as if this war where Americans are actually dying is some video game, some fun video game that a teenager is playing. There's this fundraising where the president of the United States is using a picture of the dignified transfer where he's wearing a hat, I will add, in that fundraising. Is there a line for this administration? Like, what is the line?
Has there ever been a line for this administration?
And if there's not a line, why aren't why are Republicans doing anything about it?
I know. Listen, I wrote about this last week for The Dispatch. Yeah. Both the fundraising email appeals and the meme videos. They started happening within a few days of the war. And presidents have always, when we've been at war, the presidents that have ordered us to war have always tried to make a political case for that war, including to try and win re-election, try and pressure, Congress for funding if necessary. And so the idea that you would incorporate a war into your sales pitch, for lack of a better word, is not new. What is new are email fundraising appeals. At least they appear new because they're so they seem so trite. Yeah. Right. I mean, some of these email appeals have tried to gain advantage over Democrats. Some of them have tried to actually push back against some of the Republican criticism of the president's decision to go to war. And it just strikes a lot of people as off-putting. The meme videos in particular, because you could say, well, It's the president's political operation. That's what political operations do. These meme videos are coming directly from the White House with the White House stamp, so to speak. And so I don't think you're going to see pushback from Republicans, because I just think they look at it as part and parcel of the way the president communicates. And most of them are on board with the policy, at least for now. But it is something somewhat unusual, even though, I was talking to an academic about this, and they pointed to presidents going all the way back to Woodrow Wilson and during World War I, looking for unusual ways to communicate, or novel and innovative ways to communicate and sell a war policy. So the concept is not new. I think what is new and what is very troubling for a lot of people that I've spoken to, not on the Republican side, but just people in general, is that these sorts of things seem sophomorish. And they don't seem to they don't fit with the gravity of being at war, and I think that's what's different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is just sort of postmodern propaganda, but it also indicates that the White House potentially doesn't think that highly of the people that they're trying to message and speak to, right? And I think, actually, Adam, it's a perfect segue to what you just wrote in The Atlantic, in a very beautifully written piece called Gullible, Cynical America. You write, the spread of anti-vax conspiracies is just another example of the Gullicism that defines our age. The cynicism is highly selective. Gullicists see everyone's hidden motives except when they don't. They're able to reject any claim rooted in actual evidence, whether in science, politics, or history, while embracing the most breathtakingly absurd assertions on the same topics. Indeed, documentation is often taken as further evidence of conspiracy, while assertion that this or that will detoxify your blood or that COVID deaths were exaggerated is taken as gospel. This rejection of empiricism makes selling falsehoods easier and contradicting them harder, which creates a fertile environment for anyone with something to sell, whether shady businesses or authoritarian governments. Adam, does this argument apply to war?
I mean, I think it does apply to war, because the idea is that if you assume that everyone is corrupt, everyone is on the take, that relieves you of the cognitive burden of distinguishing when this is actually happening. So if you say, oh, well, all presidents act like this, or all politicians are corrupt, then, it prevents you from understanding the depth or seriousness of a particular kind of corruption. So, for example, if you say, all presidents do try to make the case for whatever military action they are engaging in. But to say that, if you just say that without distinguishing between what is different about what Trump is doing with this sort of, bizarre internet strategy of reducing war to sort of comic memes, for the lulz online, that is absolutely new. It's absolutely new for presidents to make personal profits off of the U.S. government and just pocket that kind of money. Previous presidents did not do that. So, I think the important thing here is not to get so cynical. It's important to be, skeptical. It's important to take empiricism seriously, but it's important not to be so cynical that you essentially can't tell the difference between a scam and reality.
David, one of the reasons why, particularly the picture of the president wearing a hat during the dignified transfer, and then using pictures like that in fundraising emails, why this has been so enraging to me, is because I remember, 12 years ago, when another commander-in-chief had the temerity to salute the service members, the Marines, was coming off, I think, Marine One, with a coffee cup in his hand. Let's just watch a little montage of far-right outrage at President Obama.
Our commander-in-chief displayed his complete disrespect for the men and women in uniform when he chose to salute a U.S. Marine while holding a coffee cup yesterday as he departed Marine One.
It's this broader issue of just sort of a lack of respect, like we saw where the president got off of Marine One in New York City, and he salutes with his coffee cup to the Marines that are standing there awaiting a salute, the salute from the commander-in-chief.
I think that's even more of a reason to possibly be outraged about it.
Really?
Learn the proper respect of the salute.
The proper respect.
I mean, you can't take these people seriously. All right, these are media partisans, and look, this is sometimes the world that we live in. We're all in the media, but there's no consistency when it comes to political partisanship over the past 10, 15 years, and people just switch jerseys, right? I mean, it's no different than when you're on the Hill, and if you're in the majority, you complain about the tyranny of the minority, and then you lose the majority, Eugene, right? And then the next day, you're like, then you're extolling the virtues of the filibuster and how it protects the sanctity of the U.S. Senate. Nobody really has any scruples here. Everybody just it's like if you've got a running back, you run it up the middle, and if you've got a quarterback who can throw the ball, you just change the playbook, and that's how it is now. It doesn't make it okay. It does expose. I don't even care about hypocrisy. We're all, in politics, there'd be no politics without hypocrisy, but it does expose the shallowness of the criticism often. And, Adam makes a really good point about people needing to be able to distinguish contextually in terms of what is actually going on. I think it might help if politicians might stop saying everything is rigged, because it contributes to this idea that you can't believe anything because everybody is on the take, not just one guy or, one political party at any given time, but the whole thing. And it allows people then to ignore everything that's happening and just say, you're all the same. And that's not always the case.
It's rarely the case.